Today on Unsolved Florida, we're going to be covering perhaps one of the most crazy cases I've come across. A young woman left a domestic relationship, her boyfriend was murdered, and everyone thinks she's been on the run for almost 40 years or the victim of a serial killer. Let's dive into what happened. Debbie Lynn Prosser was last seen in Fort Lauderdale, Florida on May 15, 1984. She has never been heard from again. Nearly 5 years later, on May 10, 1989, Debbie was declared legally deceased. She was 29 years old at that time of declaration. Despite this ruling, no remains have ever been found and her disappearance remains unsolved. Debbie was born on May 21, 1959, to Bill Prosser and Iris Julia Judy Prosser. She had siblings, though little public information about them has been released. By the early 1980s, Debbie was living in South Florida and navigating a turbulent period in her life. At the time of her disappearance, Debbie had recently ended a troubled relationship with her boyfriend, Julio Armando Alfonso, the co-owner of Scuba Divers Incorporated, a dive shop located on North State Road 7 in Margate, Florida. Alfonso was also a major investor in the International Gold Exchange, a company that collapsed in 1983, resulting in approximately $75 million in losses to investors. You can pause to read if you'd like. Several individuals connected to the company were later put in jail, though investigators stated it was unclear whether Alfonso's business dealings were related to what followed. This company was owned by two brothers, and you could see one of them was murdered, one of them was attacked, and then later murdered. Keep in mind that at this point, Alfonso was married and had a child, but had been separated from his wife for a couple years at the time of his death. Police had responded to numerous domestic disturbance calls at Alfonso's residence during his relationship with Debbie. About 6 weeks before his death, Debbie moved out of his home. On May 14, 1984, Alfonso was found shot to death inside his home on the 1200 block of Northeast 27th Terrace in Pompano Beach, Florida. He had likely been dead for about a day when his body was discovered by his business partner. Investigators reported no signs of forced entry and nothing appeared to be missing from the home. Debbie disappeared the following day. Police stated that Debbie was not considered a suspect in Alfonso's murder. Instead, they identified her as a material witness and publicly expressed concern that she herself could be in danger. Detectives also explored whether drugs or other criminal activity may have been connected to the homicide, but no conclusions were made public. This is an age progression of what Debbie might look like today. On the day she vanished, Debbie had borrowed a car from another boyfriend in Boca Raton. She never returned it. It is unclear if it was a new or prior boyfriend. 4 days later, the vehicle was found abandoned in Pompano Beach. Debbie was never seen again and never made contact with her family, friends, or law enforcement. And like I said, she was declared legally dead about 5 years after she went missing. It's also never been determined whether Debbie's disappearance is directly connected to Alfonso's murder or whether his homicide was ever solved. Her case remains one of many unresolved disappearances from South Florida in the 1980s, and Debbie would be 66 years old today. One Reddit user who was doing research on unsolved homicides in their county theorized perhaps Debbie was a victim of a serial killer and her death and abduction is not connected to her ex-boyfriend's murder at all. From 1977 to 1987, there are 4 unsolved homicides of Carrie Dillon, Jane Doe, Carrie Weldgren, and Marilyn Decker. The cases are very similar, like the bodies were dumped in or around canals near Flamingo Road, most were stabbed, and one of the victims was last seen in Fort Lauderdale. The Reddit user theorized that Dolores Bailey and Debbie Lynn Prosser may also be victims due to the similarities in their locations, the age, and gender. All of the victims that I mentioned before, except Prosser, were found on or around Flamingo Road and Griffin Road. When you follow these roads, they make a straight path to Fort Lauderdale and Hollywood, both of which are the last known locations of the victims. According to the Charlie Project, Debbie's DNA, fingerprints, and dental records are unavailable for testing. I really hope this is not the case since there are so many Jane Does in Florida. But she does have exclusions listed on her profile, so perhaps that's just an error. Her parents passed a long time ago, and one of her siblings have passed. I don't know if she has any living siblings, and DNA was not prevalent when her family members had passed away. Her brother, William Kenneth Prosser, passed away in 2005 at the age of 48, and I can't find any records for marriage or children, only that he worked in construction in Tampa. I think Debbie likely ran away given the circumstances of her ex investment loss and murder, since she was last seen the day after he was found dead, getting a car from someone. It just seems like she was trying to get away without being seen or tracked. If the people who killed her ex wanted to do the same to her, they probably would have done it in the same way. There's no information about where she was living at the time, only that she had moved out 6 weeks prior to his death. However, even if she chose to run away, that doesn't mean something did or did not happen to her while on the run. She could have met up with someone where the car was found who hurt her or helped her out of the country. I do think if she was still alive, she probably wouldn't be sitting here in Florida. It was a lot easier in the early 80s to fake your identity. Do y'all ever wonder if people have entered the witness protection program, but the police still have to say they are missing or they have died? That way people don't try to go after them or find them. To me, this is one case where I was like, if the police got her and she gave them information and they just created a new identity for her, I could totally see that. But I have no idea how that works. So, anyway, this was a little bit longer of a case, but let me know what you think and thank you for watching.